Today's committee. This will be quite interesting. It's the first time that I've sat in the. You can see I'm sitting underneath a big clock just to my side, just to make sure that you realise what time it is. And we'll be 4:30. So we're getting apologies, declarations of interest or substitutions.
I don't have any apology. I noticed that Councillors Alfeld and Crowther are not present, unless I've missed them. Oh, Councillor Alfeld, I just see him arriving there. Councillor Crowther is there now. And
okay.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Yeah, declarations from me as well. I noticed that Graham's put it in for Inverclyde Leisure and Clyde for the local development plan.
And Councillor Brooks has declared an interest in item 3, IL Board, and item 9 and 14, Riverclyde Homes Board.
Jim, you want to go on?
Yeah, just same as the councillors previous before. A member of Inverclyde Leisure, item 3.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes, I'll be 9 and 14 as well, Councillor Curley. Riverclyde Homes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now I know that we're used to WebEx meetings, but just a couple of things. You know that if you want to speak, you can type question or comment in your chat box, selecting everyone in your drop-down menu. And when I see that, I'll call on you to speak. I don't think we've got the access the meeting by phone, so we don't have to worry about that. And I'll just ask you to make sure that your speakers are on mute, unless you're going to be asking a question.
Who?
Okay. So moving on to the agenda.
Can't see him.
Moving on to the agenda, item number 2 is the Environment and Regeneration 2021 Revenue Report, period to the 30th of June 2020. Mary McCabe.
Yes. Thanks, Convener. This first report advises committee of the 1920 outturn position and the 2021 position at period 3. In 1920, the committee outturned 302,000 under budget. Details of last year's outturn are explained at 2.2 in section 5. The latest projection for 2021 is an overspend of 2.311 million. Of this overspend, 2.185 is associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. PNR committee agreed on the 11th of August one-off funding to cover these costs. The net position after this is an overspend of 126,000 at the moment. The major variances are explained in section 6 and appendix C of the report. Appendix 4 provides an update in the committee's earmarked reserves position. Committee is asked to note the outturn for last financial year and the current projected overspend for 2021, as well as to note expenditure in the Council's response to the COVID pandemic, which is offset by one-off funding. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, Mary, thanks for that. Anybody got a question for Mary or comment? No? Okay, can we agree on recommendations? Yeah. Okay. Item number 3 is the Environment and Regeneration Capital Programme Progress Report. This has been taken by Mary again.
Yep, thanks, Convener. Again, this is just an update on the current position of the committee's capital programme. The budget has been rephased in light of the COVID pandemic, and this report is based on the revised budget as agreed by PNR on the 11th of August. The total projected spend is on budget with net accelerated spend of £100,000 projected. Details of the progress in the projects are detailed in sections 5 to 9. The committee is asked to note the current projection and progress in the specific projects, as well as to note the detail around the core property services allocation as outlined in 3.2 and 3.3. Myself and any of the lead officers will be happy to take any questions and anything in the report.
Okay, Mary, thanks very much. Do we have any questions on item number 3? Jim McElhenney.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Regarding paragraph 8.11, page 22, the refurbishment, the DDA compliance works required. Now, I think regarding the water institution and the lift, we just spent, what, I don't know, 2.1 million. It was shut for 2 years. So the question has to be asked is, why was that work not picked up and incorporated into that particular project? The second item on that same paragraph is relating to the DDA works regarding the cobbles down at Custom House. Now, I'm sure when they were first put in, the contractor come back to rectify some of the works. So are we talking about the same area, or are we talking about that and other areas?
Okay, Jim, thank you. Alan, do you want to take up the first question?
Yep, thank you, Convener. Yeah, the original project in the museum was external works. It was stone repairs and reslating, although we did manage to get some internal work incorporated into it, but it didn't go as far as installing the lift there. We have now got access to DDA money, and that's why we're progressing this as a separate project.
Okay. Jim, what was your second question, sorry?
Sorry, I'm having problems with WebEx again. I missed that answer regarding the what institution.
Yeah, we're not hearing you. Right.
I'm saying I'm having problems with WebEx. This is the second time today. I missed that answer on the what institution.
I'll ask Alan to give you that answer again. Alan, could you repeat that answer, please, for Jim?
Yeah, that's fine. I've put my headphones on, see if it makes any difference. Not sure if the sound has improved. The original work to the museum was originally external works, so stone repairs, stone replacement, and slate roofing, and replacing the roof light. We did manage to do some internal work where we could, but generally it wasn't an internal project. The installation of the disabled lift is a separate budget, and it's only available now. So basically we couldn't do it at the time we were on site.
Okay. John Crowther. John, have you got a question?
Yes, there's a couple of questions. One was on the 5.8, and as we are aware, there are issues in respect of the pedestrian crossing on the A78, and it's just to ensure that the issues that were raised there will not be introduced at William Street. So I don't think it will be, but it's just really just to seek those assurances. And
what was your second question, John?
The second one was the car park at Drumshanty Road, and basically there has been a lot of complaints in respect of parking. In some instances, the cars are fully parked on the pavement, and on other cases where they're on the road, it's causing a congestion as it effectively makes the road one way. So I was just wondering if, when the car park is up and running, will there be any review of the parking or further measures taken to alleviate the issues of parking on Drumshanty Road itself?
Gail, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Councillor. In relation to the William Street, we'll continue to engage with Transport Scotland. That's with Transport Scotland for approval currently, and we will be looking at ensuring that the visibility, etc., is as required. In relation to the Drumshanty car park, the design is complete. We're just awaiting approvals to commence on site. Following the construction and the use commencing of the car park, we will then be able to monitor and be able to see what effect that has on surrounding streets and whether some of those vehicles that are parked inconsiderately are related to the car park. But we will carry out that work post it has a period to settle down.
Okay, that's very nice, lovely. Thank you.
Okay, Jill, thank you. Graham, have you got a question?
Thanks very much, Convener. Yeah, both questions are in the chat. So traffic management signage being left around. How do we ensure that TN companies are enforced or encouraged to remove it? It's bad for the environment and also bad for the public pound. If they're going to keep on buying them, we're going to keep on getting charged for them. And secondly, at 5.7, there was to be a special meeting of the ER committee regarding Newton Street and Lyle Road traffic calming. Understandably, it's been cancelled or postponed due to COVID. Do we have a new date? And if not, can we expedite one, please?
Okay. Gail.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Councillor. In relation to traffic management signage being left on site, our inspectors carry out a check following full completion when they come to the end of the request that they've had for use of our road. So if there has been any signage, we advise the traffic management contractor at that time to uplift, and we'll then follow that up with a further request. In relation to Newton Street and Lyle Road, I'll engage with the legal team to look at the scheduling of that date.
Okay.
James put his hands up.
Okay. Jerry, do you want to come in there?
Indeed, Convener, it's just to supplement Gail's answer exactly as that. We talked last week within our team about expediting the arrangements for the special meeting that had to be cancelled because it was caught within the COVID arrangements, as Councillor Brooks has said. If you haven't already been approached with a request for a meeting, Convener, you short will, because we were trying to make sure that we could get a date that was suitable to roads officers and also obviously suitable for the petitioners who will wish to attend as well, the people who are making representations. But that can be expedited, and we'll be arranging a date through your good self as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Chris Curley, Chris, have you got a question?
One question and one comment, really. Question is related to 5.7. We won't be surprised to hear cycling. Well, I'm just wondering when we anticipate to be able to get these cycle lanes and give councillors an idea of what's been proposed. And the second, on that matter, what about the Spaces for People initiative? Also, we had the issues around the what do you call it, the car parking restrictions, etc. Car parking restrictions always cause a bit of an issue, but I'm just wondering how we're progressing those other places, what do you call it, the Space for People's initiatives. And just, if you get that, I've got a response on that first of all, then I'll go on to 8.2.
Okay, Gail.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Councillor. There is a briefing scheduled for, I believe, the 8th of September with officers and with members to give an update of where we are with Spaces for People and the proposals that we have developed. And we'll be able to discuss those at that point. And does that address your question?
And the general dedicated, presumably permanent cycle lanes that are mentioned in 5.7, when will we get details of those?
Members will cover that briefing.
And thank you, Convener. Just a comment on 8.2. Great glazed roof. Obviously, it's not all about criticism. I think I just would like to express that it seems to be a very good job, and it really makes a big difference to the carriageway, the glazed roof that's been done. So just to thank everybody involved in that, because it really does make a big difference, a great bit of architecture, in my opinion, being an engineer.
Here, I would agree with that comment. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Chris. Jim McElhaney, Jim, you want to come back in? Have you got connectivity?
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Yeah, my second question was regarding the cobbles at the Custom House way building runabout between that building and the beacon. I mean, ever since these cobbles were laid, I think they've not been right, and I'm sure, memory serves me right, with the contractor back to try and rectify, but I don't think they've done the correct rectification job. So is that the area we're talking about here, as well as the surrounding streets? Are we having to go and make good what the contractor should have in the first place?
Gail?
There is work ongoing looking at this location, and an update can be provided to members when we have that position.
Okay, thanks, Gail. Colin Jackson, Colin, you got a question?
Aye, thank you. So it's on the progress report. It's item 7.1, Baker Street Food and Drink Hub. We know we're facing an economic slowdown. It's just to see if there's any commercial interest in this property. That's all, Michael.
Okay, thanks, Colin. Stuart, would you want to take that on?
Yeah, thanks, convener. Obviously, the project has been delayed, Councillor Jackson, but I am reliably informed by my staff that there is still interest in it. But what we need to establish is when we're actually going to be finished, and then how we can convert that interest into realisable lets.
Okay, thanks, Stuart.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on that item? Can we agree the recommendations in the report? Yep. Okay, thank you. Item number 4 is the Resources Corporate Directorate Improvement Plan, end of year 1 progress report and annual refresh for 2020. Scott, you want to take this?
Thank you, convener. This is the standard report that comes up normally around about April or May. So later this year, it presents the performance outcome on the 2019-20 CDIP, and it then presents the updated CDIP through 2021. The performance on the 1920 has been presented up to July this year. As you'll probably see there's a number of projects that have shown some slippage, but that's because we're measuring the performance as of July, which was affected by COVID. And we've reset the targets through 2021. It's just an update, it's not a full refresh, but we have also refreshed the text. We've only included the table for this committee, but if you want to see the whole document, that's available, including all the updated preface text, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions for Scott? No? Okay, thanks very much. Can we agree the recommendations on the report? Item number 5 is the Local Development Plan update. We've had an all-member briefing on this item this afternoon. Any questions or comments? Graham? I think you're on mute, Graham. You're still on mute, Graham.
It won't be the last time I do that. Yeah, so I just wondered, we've got a lot going on. Obviously, we've heard a full briefing today, which was very helpful from officers and obviously a valuable time spent. But what I see at 4.23 is a very detailed and very tight timeline. And I just wondered whether we have the staff capacity to deliver that ambitious timetable, and that's my question. But my proposal, sorry, I propose, convener, would be, it was mentioned obviously at the briefing, that we do establish a members' sounding board, primarily made up from members of the planning board. So I'd like to be that as a proposal. I'm not too sure what Jerry would want to do with that proposal.
Okay. Stuart, would you like to come in the first part and maybe Jerry can come in the second?
Thanks, convener. Yes, it is a very ambitious and very tight time scale, and you'll see that from the time scale, convener, we're asking for the committee's indulgence with respect of special meetings of the committee. I believe that within planning policy, I've got sufficient staff to be able to deal with this. Where we may face challenges is in development management, but if that does become the case, then I'm happy to bring that back to the attention of the senior management team.
Okay, okay. Jerry, have you got any comments on the sounding board?
On that subject, thank you, convener. It is, of course, for the committee to determine membership. It might be that officers would be suggesting that members of the planning board and members who are not members of the planning board would provide a balance within the members and officers sounding board. That's a matter of detail. My advice would be for Councillor Brooks, if he is proposing that exactly as Councillor Brooks has written, that the members and officers sounding board is constituted from primarily members of the planning board. If that's his motion, effectively, which he has written within the chat function, that would be sufficient for those purposes. I would take any guidance through Stuart, please, convener, in respect of the actual constituency, as I'm saying, to make sure that there's a balance of members available. But if Councillor Brooks and the committee are determined, are of that view, shall I say, are of that view that the planning board should be the primary source, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all, and that could be part of the motion today.
Okay. Stephen.
Yeah, convener. I mean, I obviously heard Councillor Wilson express this particular view at the all members briefing, and I understand, I suppose, the desire for some sort of balance and expertise, but the reality is the local development plan is the providence of this committee, which is the strategic committee. And I think there's plenty of expertise on this committee in terms of strategic issues as well. So, and as we've seen in the past, in some senses, the planning board can tend to have sort of a concentration of members from a particular ward as well. So, I mean, I think we should agree the size of the member sounding board. It should reflect the political balance in the council. And I think we should invite groups to make representation, but be mindful of the desire to have some input from members of the planning board. But I don't think it should exclude members of the planning of this particular committee who are not members of the planning board.
Any other comments? Stuart, do you want to come in? Oh, sorry, Jerry.
Convener, if that were the view of the committee, it would be possible to remit that to Stuart and myself, and we would be reporting back to a future meeting of this committee, having taken soundings from the respective political groups, and present a report that provides that balance for the committee's consideration and hopefully approval.
Okay. Anyone else want to? Sorry. Chris Curley.
Yeah, I'd agree with that approach from Jerry. I think last time there was the chair of the vice chair of the planning board were on the sounding board as well. So there was, and certainly I think Drew was on it as well. So I think there was quite a lot of people who were actually on planning. I think 3 of the 6 members were actually in planning last time. So I think it's good to have a balance. I think there's need to have a strategic view on it as well. But obviously, I think having a balanced sounding board would be where would like to go.
Okay, thank you. Graham, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, thanks. So I think the leaders of the political groups have heard the decisions or the discussion, shall I say, here. So if Councillor McCabe's proposal or a suggestion goes forward, then I'm happy with that, because then obviously the leaders of the political groups will be able to nominate the appropriate people, should they be on planning or not. So I'm comfortable with that. What I would require is the number. What makes that? What size would that group be, Stuart? And then, obviously, from Jay's perspective, what would be the political makeup of it?
Stuart?
Through you, convener, I would suggest that 6 is an ideal number, but I'm not between 5 and 7. I would have absolutely no difficulties with, and I welcome it being from a broad spectrum, because therefore it is, as Councillor McCabe highlighted, it's the council's local development plan.
Okay, Chris, do you want to come back in again?
Yeah, I think 6 was last time, and I think it works quite well, because I don't think it's a committee you can really have substitutes in it. I think you need to have a reasonable amount of people in case people don't make one day or what have you, and they can get a consistency of approach through.
Okay. Stuart, want to come back in?
Thanks, Michael. Just providing a point of clarity in respect of the anniversary of the proposed plan, if members are minded to support it. Following the implementation of the 2019 Planning Scotland Act, at the moment it's unclear whether housing will sit within National Planning Framework 4 or whether it will be within the SPP or indeed the regional spatial strategies. So it's likely that a review will have to take place in a relatively short time, and that will in then turn be replaced by a 10-year local development plan. It's one of the questions which Councillor Curley raised earlier today, and hopefully that provides some clarity.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. So can we agree on Stephen's proposal? Is that in agreement with all members? Yep. Okay. Can we agree recommendations and report? Yeah.
Convener, what I would be doing
Jerry.
there, sorry, beg your pardon, Convener, sorry, my fault and perhaps WebEx's. We'd bring back a report. Stuart and I would be remitted to bring back a report on the members' sounding board for numbers and political balance, and we'd be taking soundings from the respective political groups as well, and that would be part of the recommendation. Sorry for the interruption, Convener.
Okay, thanks for that, Jerry. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Local Development Plan Supplementary Guidance Planning Application Advice Notes. Stuart.
Convener, despite the turmoil the previous report creates back to normal business, we consulted earlier this year on supplementary guidance for our local development plan for the 11 topics highlighted in paragraph 4.2, and the notes are provided in pages 72 to 5 of the agenda. Subject to members' approval, we will be submitting the document for consideration by Scottish ministers, having had clarification from Scottish ministers that they believe that it is, despite the fact that the Homes and Communities chapter has been quashed, there is still merit in them considering it. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions on that item for Stuart? No? Okay, can we agree the recommendations in the report? And move on to item number 7, which is Clyde Muirshire Regional Park, the future operating arrangements for the park. Stuart.
Convener, earlier this year we advised committee that North Ayrshire Council intended withdrawing from Clyde Muirshire Regional Park on the 1st of April 2020. Officers from Renfrewshire and Inverclyde have met with the options considered in Appendix 1, and our recommended option is option 3. Convener, for information, colleagues in Renfrewshire have advised that their Infrastructure and Environment Board approved their parallel paper yesterday. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Graham, do you want to come in on that?
Thanks very much, Convener, and I've remembered to unmute. Happy to go with option 3. I think it's a positive move forward for Inverclyde's, obviously Lunderson Bay and the cut. And I do realise this is a step. I'm thankful for officers for previous communications regarding item 7. So happy this is a step forward, and we know it's not a conclusion. But I just like to ensure that we're of one mind that both Lunderson Bay, I think it's 200,000, is it not Inverclyde's highest tourist attraction? And it's a sort of a wish and a hope that we embrace that these, especially Lunderson Bay, but also the cut, their potential for us to do wonderful things and to again cement Inverclyde as a very positive place to come, to play and to learn. So I would just understand that option 3 is a one step forward, but I'd hope this committee and fellow members of the committee would want to ensure that we make the best we can of these two facilities should we go ahead and adopt item 3.
I think we'd all agree with that, Graham. Stephen, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I said questions, but I maybe have more than one question. It says in the report under the legal section that the formal timescales for withdrawal do not appear to have been implemented. So it would be useful to understand what the implications of that, particularly, I suppose, in relation to winding up and any potential deficit that there might be on winding up. And the second question relates to potential 2P implications. Have we got any understanding yet whether actually there are 2P implications or not?
Stuart, do you want to?
Thanks, Convener. The formal position, Councillor McCabe, was that members of the Park Authority were supposed to give 2 years notice, and Mr Malone can correct me if I'm wrong in that. But clearly the available budget is something which members had to be aware of, and with North Ayrshire withdrawing their funding, that established a precedent. Of course, we're not technically winding the park up. We're just looking at disaggregation of the park, so there will still be Clyde Muirshiel Regional Park. And with regards to that, in terms of TUPE numbers, we've asked formally for that information. Indications are that it could be up to 3 staff. Currently, it's 2 staff members and a vacancy, but as part of the formal process, we've asked for that information, and that will be reported to committee in due course.
Just to come back in, convener, on the first issue. So if legal notice wasn't given, and I understand we're not winding up the park, we're winding up the park authority, but if due legal notice wasn't given, and we get to the point where the park authority is wound up, and there is a deficit, simply because North Ayrshire said we are walking away and we're not paying you any more money, I don't believe that sort of relieves them of potential liability for the deficit, unless the 2 other authorities are prepared to accept that position. So it'll be interesting to know what officers' views on that, maybe the legal officer's view on that is.
Jerry, you want to respond to that?
Yes, convener. I have to report it as it is, that the contractual notice as is envisaged in the minute of agreement was not formally undertaken. I think Stuart's explaining that the voluntary negotiations and the contact that has taken place thus far have gone some way to address the respective positions of the other councils. But I have to say, and that's why it's in the report, that the actual formal legal notice, such that if we were wanting to withdraw, what you would expect me to be giving, was not given. And instead of that, there is the voluntary procedure that's in the body of the report.
Sorry, just to be clear, it says in the report the council would have a 30% share of the ultimate deficit, assuming there was a deficit, right? So who picks up the other 70%?
Convener, that's the shares from the respective 3 councils who are members of the existing joint committee. So
right.
That's the deficit that would be shared amongst those 3 parties.
Right. So as far as we're concerned, as far as Renfrewshire's concerned, and as far as North Ayrshire's concerned, if there is a deficit on the winding up of the park authority, we all share that deficit. And if there happens to be a small surplus, we'll split that surplus between us. And all 3 authorities are signed up to that.
And convener, with the only exception being that it is the practice, it's the actual situation, that if anything in terms of costs or expenditure arises in relation to heritage, as in buildings or property, that is the respective individual responsibility of each of the members. So provided that none of what I'm saying in terms of the heritage responsibilities, the building responsibilities, the rest of it is part of a revenue or a deficit or surplus that is shared amongst the respective parties, the assets and the liabilities, apart from the buildings or property located within each individual council area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on item 7? Oh, sorry. Jim Cockerill.
Yeah, thanks, Rico. It was really just a comment. And I don't know if people know, obviously, our 2 main bits is the Connolly Centre and Lunderson Bay. And I know our officers didn't want any press in this. I'd just like to thank them for getting the toilets open at both locations. Because what actually happened over the weekends, they were absolutely mobbed. And I'm surprised that the press never picked up on that. They were absolutely mobbed. And it was really good that we managed to get, with social distancing in place, we managed to get the toilets open for the limited period during the really busy times. So just to say well done for doing that.
Here. And Innes. It seems that long since I've spoke to you, Innes. How are you? Okay? What's your question? You're on mute, Innes.
there. Is that it?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay, good stuff. I good to talk to you, Michael. Yeah, I've got a question on, and Jerry briefly mentioned assets. Do some of the assets, for instance, vehicles and canoes and different things up at Loch Winnow, do they belong to the regional park as a whole, the board, or do they belong to Renfrewshire Council, all of these assets? Keeping in mind that obviously Inverclyde Council and North Ayrshire Council put money in to buy these assets at one time.
Jerry, is that one for you? Oh, sorry, Stuart.
Convener, through you, we have asked Renfrewshire Councils for a list of all assets that are attributable to the park in order that we ensure that we get our share that we're due.
Okay. Okay, can we... Any other questions? No? Okay, can we agree on recommendations? Yep. Okay, item number 8 is road naming within the new development at the site of the former Ravenscraig Hospital in Greenock. Stuart.
Convener, one of our favourite reports on street naming. The report relates to street names in the former Ravenscraig site at Greenock. Paragraphs 5.2 and 5.3 identify consultation responses, and paragraph 5.5 identifies officers' recommendations. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the former Ravenscraig Hospital site? John?
Yeah,
You're on mute, John.
Yeah, as we know, just put the volume up. There's only one question, and it really just goes on the local vernacular, basically, and it's the name Cock Robin and the connotations that that could raise. And I was just wondering if that was an appropriate name. It's really just to bounce it off everyone else. And if it was deemed maybe not appropriate, is there any other alternative? I was looking at the various hills in the area at the back of the Greenock, and just to see was there anything suitable. There's not really anything suitable, so I then looked towards the likes of the Lochs, where I've Loch Thorn, the Greif, those names are used. I then had a look at the kind of reservoirs where we have the likes of the Yetts, and it's really just to bounce it off other members. Do they think that the name Cock Robin and the connotations that could be raised from that are indeed make that an appropriate name?
Okay, I'm interested to know what members' thoughts are on John's question. Any comments or? No? So are you proposing changing one of the names, John?
Not really, I just want to bounce it off. If no one else has got any objection to it, well, by all means, use that name. It was really just to bounce it off everyone else, just to see what their views were.
Okay. So nobody else has come in with any comments, so can we just agree what's in the paper? Yeah? Okay. Okay, item number 9 is the street naming in the new development at Southfield Avenue in Port Glasgow. Stuart.
Convener, a similar street naming report for the former St Stephen's site. This time officers are not going to the wire on this. We've identified what our preferred solution would be in terms of paragraph 5.2, but the options are identified in the appendix, which show a variety of different names on the site. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Who's want to come in on the former St Stephen's site? If I can just maybe... Sorry, Chris, you want to come in first? You're on mute, Chris.
No, Stephen's there in first.
Okay, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty difficult one because I think there's a number of good suggestions in there that are certainly merit consideration, but I don't think it's an easy one to sort of handle at a committee like this. So my thoughts were that maybe the ward councillors meeting with officers, maybe yourself as well, convener, could sort of talk the particular proposals through and maybe come up with a an agreement and a recommendation for the committee rather than sort of debating it publicly like this. Because as I say, I think there's a lot of good suggestions about how we honour particular people, but the difficulty if you look to honour one person, you are perceived maybe to not be honouring somebody else, and I think that's pretty difficult. So I think we'd be better looking at it in the round, having a sort of discussion separately and coming up with the best solution. I mean, everybody at sense it's mentioned in the report that absolutely deserve recognition in some shape or form. Whether this is the best way, I don't know, but I just think it would be better maybe to delegate this to the ward councillors and discussion with officers and yourself to come up with a recommendation.
Okay, Chris. Chris.
This one,
Chris, you're still on mute.
I'm okay now. Yep. I think there's a wee bit of meeting of minds in this one. Yep. Am I still muted?
Yeah, no, we can hear you, Chris.
Aye, that's fine. I think it's we're doing eventually on this one. I think, yeah, I think I can see what people were trying to do here. I think that there is a concern about honouring people and maybe, as Stephen says, missing out the other people who are maybe have contributed to the success of, say, St Stephen's High School and other high schools within that state, and of course the other people who have been mentioned in the report. So I think it would be quite a good idea to go out and just sort of take stock and have a discussion amongst the ward councillors to see what the best way forward is. I know I've got some ideas for names. People wouldn't be surprised to hear that, but I must have missed the actual through because I didn't have a chance to contribute to the report in the first place. So I'd welcome the chance to contribute now. Thank you.
Okay, Stuart.
Michael, sorry, convener. There is a time pressure on this because this report has been affected by COVID, and the developer is keen for this report to be considered as soon as possible on the basis that utility connections require street names in order for them to be made. So would it be possible, with the indulgence of the committee, for that to be remitted to that subgroup in order that a decision can be taken by that subgroup in order that the matter can be cleared, as opposed to having to wait till October in order to provide that information to the developer?
Yeah. Yeah. Scott, do you want to come in that?
Just to confirm, convener, I'm happy with that approach.
Okay. And I would like to be involved in that as well, that group. So can we agree on that?
Great.
So convener, for the minute, it will be the relative ward councillors plus the convener with respective officers, and they will be remitted to determine the street naming scheme.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. Okay, item number 10 is the proposed redetermination order. Inverclyde Council, Campsie Road, Port Glasgow. Jerry, this is yours.
Indeed, convener. This is through the planning permission that was granted in May 18 for the 5 terraced houses that are in that area. Part of the land within the development, which is well underway, as members will know, was formerly the actual running surface of the road. The planning permission that was granted permitted Riverclyde Homes to redevelop a small area of road, so it would only be suitable and capable of being used for pedestrians and cycles. This means to say that if this is granted, motor vehicles can no longer lawfully drive in that small area of road within the plan. It's still a road, but after the redetermination order is made, if it's made, it can't be used by motor vehicles. That's the background to this, convener.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? No? Okay, can we agree? Right. Oh, Chris, you want to come in? We can't hear you, Chris.
It said it was muted, but never mind. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah, what it was I've had discussions with the officers about trying to close at all because there's some issues there with what they call, obviously, as you were councillor aware, with respect to fly tipping, etc. So they said one of the issues is that the to do with the fact is allowing services still to what they call utility companies, etc., still to utilise the roads, so that's why they can't, what do you call it, close these roads down. I'm just wondering, is this going to have an impact on this particular road, or are we still okay? We're not going to, what do you call it, stop utility companies getting access to their infrastructure?
Gail, do you want to come in that?
Utilities companies always have the opportunity to access their apparatus. So while there's still utility apparatus there, they will have the opportunity to access it.
Okay. Can we agree?
Oh, just to confirm, convener.
Yeah, you come.
So therefore, we're having the road there is, or not having the road there wouldn't have an impact on utility companies.
Convener, could I attempt to assist?
Yeah, Jerry.
The road is going to continue being there, but after the redetermination order is made, if it's made, it can't be used by motor vehicles. It's been designed so it's only suitable and capable of being used by pedestrians and cycles in that small area that's attached in the plan on page 122. Now, convener, I'm going to just hazard something here just now with your indulgence. I've obviously looked through the report. For any of these orders, we do have statutory consultees which involve the utility companies and public undertakers. Now, I'm just hazarding that just now because we've not specified that within the report, but perhaps Councillor Curley would accept, and I'll certainly clarify later if this order is made today, that there was consultation with the relative utility companies. That is the normal practice, convener. As I say, I'm not saying it's happened, but I believe that would have happened in this case as well. There are no objections to this order.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Okay. Happy, Chris?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Can we accept the recommendations? Yeah. Okay. Item number 11 is a report for noting. 11A is a report on the withdrawal from the European Union. An update report from Martin McNabb.
Sorry, as you say, convener, this is a report for noting. Just includes the updated risk assessment for a no-deal EU exit. Obviously, we are still in a position at the moment where there is quite a lot of discussion going on. I would hope that the position will be a bit clearer come October, and we'll bring a further report back to committee at that stage.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 12. Sorry, this is in private session. If we can ask the press member to leave.